Okay, so in this video I'm going to introduce the idea of spreadsheets. Okay, so in a spreadsheet we use formulas. In fact, spreadsheets, electronic spreadsheets are really helpful in helping us calculate things, keep track of things. They're very useful. Excel is extremely useful in helping us do certain things and to do calculations and keep things organized. And so we're going to take some time to understand how spreadsheets work, but also understand that, hey, they use formulas, okay? And I'll explain why or how that is. So when you have a spreadsheet, even if it's on paper or if it's an electronic spreadsheet, it's a table that helps you keep things organized and make calculations, right? So in a spreadsheet like this, you've got rows and columns. The rows are indicated by the number. The columns are indicated by letters. So what we call each one of these rectangles, we call that a cell. Okay? So each one of these cells has an address, what we call the address for that cell. So the cell of the address is comprised of two pieces, the row and the column that it's located in. Okay? So this cell would be cell 1A, right? So this would be cell 1A, right? So this would be cell 2A and 3A, right? And this would be 1B. Okay? 2B, 3C. Okay? So each cell can be located or named, right? Or referenced by using its address. Okay? So now in the spreadsheet, like Excel, it's used by looking at its row, the column first. Now again, in some cases, well, let me repeat. If you deal with like tables like matrices, it's always row first, but in Excel, and again, let's be fair, since we're going to be talking about Excel. Let's flip these. So in Excel, we're going to use and I think most electronic spreadsheets do this nowadays, is the column is first. So you name the column first and then followed by the row. So it's column followed by row. So this would be A1, okay? This would be B1, C1, okay? This would be A2 and A3 and A4, and this would be B3 and C3 and so on. Okay, so that would be the address. So it's going to be the column followed by the row. Okay, so now what does the other thing about the spreadsheet do? Well, the cool thing about electronic spreadsheets is that you can write formulas in each cell. Like, for example, in BC, you could write a formula in here. And, oh, by the way, each address can be treated as a variable, right? So A4 can be used as a variable inside of a formula. So you can reference A4, this cell, right, in a formula. Okay, for example, if I have, I want to add some things together, I could reference the cells and say, okay, I want to take, let's say I have 5 numbers in here, right? I have 5 numbers, and I want to add them up. Okay, one way I could do it is I could just reference these cells and say, well, A1 plus A2 plus A3 plus A4 plus A5. So in essence, these are the addresses. I'm using the addresses in my formula. Okay? So, and typically, like in Excel, when we want Excel to do a calculation, or we're using a formula or a function of some sort, we always put equals in front of it. So if I wanted to, in this cell, right, let's say in this cell, I wanted to add up all of these numbers in these cells. Then what I would do is in this cell, I would type in equals, right? I would type in this whole thing. In that cell. Okay? So what I'm doing is I'm actually typing in a formula where, what? What's this? This is what? This is C4. Very explosive. So now, I have C4, and so what I'm doing is I'm actually writing a formula in a manner of speaking because I'm putting the equals inside here. So what I'm actually saying is, hey, C4 is equal to this. Okay? So that's the cool thing with, now that's not the real cool thing, but that is a cool thing you can do in Excel, is that you can write these formulas and reference other cells and treat these as variables, right? Now, here's the other cool thing about electronic spreadsheets like Excel, is that once you create your spreadsheet, let's say you're using your spreadsheet for like your budget, right? Let's say you have a budget for your home like I do. Well, you can create a spreadsheet that calculates certain things. And you can, like for a monthly budget, like I do a monthly budget. So a monthly budget, you could have your expenses on one side, your income on the other side. And so you can have, there's certain things added up. You can have your total expenses, right? You can have your total income, and you can add that up in one cell, okay? And then furthermore, you could subtract the 2 other cells. So once you have your total expenses and your total income, then you can have another cell and put in a formula that then takes those 2 cells and subtracts them to get your net income or your net cash flow, okay, for your home, okay, for your family. And then what you could do is then take that number, right, and let's say the next month, well, things do change, right, from month to month at times. So what you could do is then you could go ahead and you can copy those formulas, okay, onto another sheet. Let's say you have another sheet. Let's say you start with January, right, and you have another sheet for December, right? So you can copy all those formulas, and then what happens is then when you do your monthly budget for let's say January and then February, okay? Let's say you did one for January and now you're going to do the one for February, so you copy it over. And now what happens is if you change the numbers in the cells, well, guess what? All the other calculations that are linked to those addresses also update automatically, which is fantastic because then you can do your spreadsheet once and then use it. Or if you make a change somewhere, you don't have to go back and recalculate things. It'll automatically update all the other cells that are eventually linked together, okay? And so that's the power of using electronic spreadsheets, is that you can build a very nice, powerful spreadsheet that you can use, and then if you update certain numbers, then everything else updates for you, and you don't have to worry about things being off. Okay. Now there are spreadsheets out there that you can go on, like for example, you can go on Google or Microsoft Excel, and you can go in there and you can search for spreadsheets, templates for, like, let's say debt reduction, budgets, calendars, all kinds of things that you, if you're interested in something. For example, let's say you're trying to find a way to keep track of your expenses, right? So you can get planners, financial planners, that will take your paycheck, right? You can put your paycheck amount and it has all these formulas and it keeps track of everything, okay? So again, that's the cool thing. Or you can build your own, right? And keep it simple, okay? So that's the idea of a spreadsheet, okay? So we're gonna do an example. And again, in this example, we're going to take a spreadsheet and we're gonna figure out what do we need to do. So for example, before we go, let's continue on with this idea. So let's say, okay, I took all these numbers, right? Oops. Okay. And I've added them up. But now let's say, you know what? I want to put the average in here. Let's say I want the average of these numbers. Well, then what I could do is, what's the average? The average is the sum of the numbers divided by the total number of values I have. Well, how many values do I have? I have 5. Well, then what I could do is in here, in E4, what I can do is I can stick in this formula. I can take C4, right? This is the sum, right? Instead of doing the whole thing over, well, I've got the sum right here. So all I have to do is to get the average of these 5 numbers is to take the sum that's in here and divide by 5. So I can just take C4 and I can just divide by 5. And then I can stick this formula in that cell. Okay? So now the cool thing is, like I said, if I change these numbers, or if I change any one of these numbers or 2 of these numbers, then what happens is this will update automatically and the average will update automatically. The sum and the average will update automatically. And then if you want to, label things in the spreadsheet, right? So let's say these are your numbers, right? And let's say you want to, because all this is going to show you is a number, but you want to be able to come back to the spreadsheet, or if somebody else looks at the spreadsheet, they'll be able to see what's going on here. So you could put in, like in this cell here, you could put in sum equals. Okay, so then you'll see this, right? Sum equals, and then the number here. And then here you could put, let's say, average, or abbreviate, average equals, or write it out. Okay, so then when you go back to the spreadsheet, you see, oh, okay, this cell is the sum, and this cell is the average. Average of what? These 5 numbers. Okay? That's it. Have a great day.